But let's go to Roy Lilley, former NHS Trust chairman, who wants to talk to us about what the next government should do, because according to the BMA, they should take urgent action to address GP unemployment. Interesting. Roy, what's this all about? Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Well, it's true. There are GPs who have qualified and can't get jobs, and that's because the GP practices who work on the basis of funding from central government, they don't have the money to employ them, and so there are some. And there was a story the other day about a GP who was working in a supermarket.
Right.
So
That sounds mad, doesn't it? I thought there's a shortage.
It is true. Well, that's right. I mean, it's one of these bizarre situations where we've got the GPs, but where they work, the GP practices can't afford to employ them. There's been more funding, it's true, there's been more doctors, but demand is going through the roof. I mean, GPs are now doing 1 million appointments a day. I mean, I've never heard of such a thing. I mean, God knows where everybody's come from, and goodness knows what's wrong with them. But 1 million appointments a day, Mike, I mean, that's just going through the roof.
Well, it really is, isn't it? I mean, I've had an interesting communication with one of our viewers and listeners called Sandy, who says this: my GP surgery had a senior partner who just before lockdown planned to retire and go travelling. He was in his 60s then. He did retire and handed the reins to the next man down, who was in his 50s. The first older man is now back at the surgery working as a locum, earning even more than when he was senior partner, with none of the admin hassle. The second younger man also retired a year ago, and yes, you've guessed it, he's back as a locum as well. So, I mean, a lot of people have communicated with me something similar. And I wonder whether that's an issue as well, because if you can afford to pay a locum to come in for a lot more money than an actual GP who's unemployed that you could hire, why is that going on?
Yes, I mean, people forget, or a lot of people don't realise that GPs actually are self-employed and they contract with the NHS to run a practice.
Right.
And practices are run by partners. And the way they get remunerated, the way they get paid is that they get all the funding and allowances that come in. They run the organisation. What's left is the surplus, and they have what they call drawings at the regularly, and at the end of the year they have a divvy up with whatever's left.
Right.
Now the cost of running GP practices now has gone through the roof mainly because of inflation, particularly with utilities and so on, things like that. So, and of course it's become a nightmare. The bureaucracy actually would drive me around the bend. And so a lot of the GPs are saying, you know what, you can have the practice, I'll just be a doctor. And they come in as a locum, they get paid per session. So, you know, they get paid for what they do on the day, and then they go home and they've got no worries. So becoming a GP partner, which used to be the sort of jewel in the crown for young doctors, they all want, you know, well, the GPs want to run their own practices, is becoming less and less popular. The youngsters don't want to do it.
Yeah, indeed. But wouldn't it be simpler, though, if you were running a GP practice, then to go and hire the GPs who are unemployed rather than hiring the locums who cost 3 or 4 times as much?
The locums don't always come through an agency, and the locum arrangements, you know, they're not always, you know, quite as they're portrayed in the press. A locum means you just paid for the session. So it's, I mean, it's not always quite the way that it seems. But you are right. I mean, there is a whole sort of nonsense within primary care where GPs have been given an extra allowance to hire people like physiotherapists. They've been given allowances to recruit and hire pharmacists and all the sort of allied health professions. The idea being that when you go to your GP practice, you don't necessarily always want to see a GP. You might see a physio, you might see some other health professional, leave the GP to get on with the sort of more serious stuff. That is the sort of direction of travel. And it's something actually that in the BMA manifesto that was released overnight, they're complaining about associate professionals coming in, taking on the role of the GP. So there's a huge amount of unfinished business. Keir Starmer's Shadow Secretary of State, Wes Streeting, he's been talking about ending the partnership arrangement with GP practices and employing them directly. I mean, that would be a huge and radical change, but it is something that is quite popular with a lot of GPs. They're saying, look, I'll come in, work for wages, you get somebody else to run it, do the training, health and safety, all of that. I'll just be a GP. Very attractive.
Yeah, I mean, I think as you see more and more kind of these private GP walk-in centres opening up, it looks more and more attractive, I guess, for people who are GPs in that kind of business to go and work in the private sector. And Wes Streeting is not shy about talking about that, is he?
No, and I tell you what, Mike, I mean, you probably remember this yourself. There was a time when Virginia Bottomley was the Secretary of State for Health for the
Yeah.
Conservatives. She ran into trouble with the dentists. She said dentists were digging for gold and they were bigging up their part and
Mm,
getting paid more money than they should have been. She ended up with effectively an industrial dispute with the
mm,
dentists in all but name. A lot of the dentists walked and they went and walked and they went and started a small company called Denplan,
yeah.
which is a big organization now. The dentist said, "Forget this. We'll go for Denplan." You saw Denplan adverts everywhere saying, "Insure your family's mouth, dentist, whatever, for a few quid a month." And for the sort of middle classes, that was a very attractive proposition. Now we have almost no dentists, which is another, on the NHS, which is another
Mm.
story. They're all gone private. My concern is that the GPs will do a den plan. We'll see a doc plan, just like den plan, where docs will set up and say, you know what, for a few quid a month, I'll look after your family. And you know what, I'll do it mainly with an app on a mobile phone. And it's very popular. I'm talking to you now from East London this morning, not far from Canary Wharf. There are 5 GP practices in Canary Wharf.
Yeah. Well, this
They're
is the
all
thing.
private.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a whole swathe of those all over London. I mean, I'm similarly, without getting too London centric, I'm not far away from you, and within literally walking distance of me, there are 3 private GP walk-in centres where people can go for a fixed fee for a consultation, just to see how they're getting on. And a lot more people are using them. I mean, we saw a story yesterday: 900,000 people last year practically used private healthcare because they wanted to. They actually
Yeah.
opted to do it because whether or not they had health insurance, which isn't always straightforward, they were willing
Yeah.
to pay because they're so frustrated.
There's another thing as well. Older people who are on a pension, the government changed the rules, if you remember, a few years ago, where you could have a few quid out of your pension fund and it would come out tax free. And
Yeah,
the idea was people use it for holidays or help their kids buy a house or
right.
something like that. What we're seeing now is a lot of older people who need a hip operation or maybe a hernia or cataracts or
Yeah.
whatever. They're dipping into their pension and going private for their care, for their new hip or whatever, 15
Mm.
grand by your new hip, uncomplicated hip, you can get cataracts done for 3 grand. And people are doing it. And it's called self-pay.
Mm.
And the self-pay numbers that were published just recently, they've gone gangbusters,
Yeah.
absolutely through the roof. People are buying their own healthcare.
Because the NHS simply cannot cope with dealing with them all. Roy, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Roy Lilley, former NHS Trust chairman.